Quick one. Mina here. Thank you for watching this episode. I appreciate you. Thank you for all your support. One thing that you can do for me is to please hit the subscribe button below. I promise you that if you hit subscribe, I'm going to work hard to make sure that my episodes are really good, that will get better and better. So, do we have a deal? Okay, back to the episode.
What I decided to do was, rather than have coffee with 20 people every week, the same people, and have 30 seconds, I would just have coffee with one person every week and have an hour. And then I would network with that one person.
And focus on that person.
And focus on that one person. And my goal after that would be to send them referrals without them asking. So I just built a different philosophy. And guess what? I got a ton of referrals in return. Never asked for one.
So you just
never asked for one.
You just invite them over for coffee and you have a chat.
Yeah. And we're just going to have a coffee somewhere. And then we would chat and we'd ask about their story and ask about their life and ask about their business and ask them who are the sorts of businesses that you're looking for. And they would tell me, and I was like, great, well, I think I know a couple of people. I'd love to introduce you to some people. And then that would, it would happen months later.
Yeah.
I would get a referral, and I'd get really big, juicy referrals months later from, and I'd say, who referred you? And they'd tell them, well, Dave referred me. And I'd be like, huh. And they said, look, Dave said he'd never worked with you before, but he said you're a good guy. And that's enough, right?
Yeah.
And that was a really big learning for me.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Is this how you're marketing yourself at the moment?
I'm doing lots of things. So probably 40 to 50 posts on LinkedIn a month. Email marketing. Running my own workshops. Running my own paid program. Referral marketing through cups of coffee. Sure. Doing that as well, going to networking events, and going to events like the Marketing Club last night, me being at the event where we met has clearly worked, right? Because I met you.
Well, it was the interaction as well, and it was like checking you out online and seeing your work, and it's really impressive. So
yeah, I just think it's a ripple effect, but you have to be actually out there doing. You need to be creating the ripples, right? It's a big pond.
I want to get into you're the market. You're on this podcast because you know a thing or two about marketing, and the people listening on the podcast who either are in business wanting to grow their business through marketing and they're super confused. You've had an amazing track record, but we'll get into the juicy stuff first for people who want to get a quick win from this episode.
Okay. So you want me to unpack my entire marketing strategy for other people to steal?
Now,
fine.
Would you?
Fine. Let's go there.
Would you like to list them for me in order of what works most for you?
Sure.
Not telling us this is the way, but what works most for you.
So I'll flip the triangle upside down. That most people will start with this funnel concept of the broader part of their marketing, which is social media, etc. I'm going to flip it upside down and go, what works for me best and fastest?
Yes.
In-person networking and conversations, right? So cups of coffee with people every single week is part of my marketing strategy, right? And that brings faster return for a higher investment in time. So I don't do it all day, every day, because there's a lot of investment in time. The next step up is email marketing. So I've got thousands of people in an email audience. I have a tendency to try and give them value as frequently as possible. So I give away all of my skills, all of my tips. I'm giving away 2 or 3 specific, I try to make them highly useful marketing tips on social every week. I summarize them and put them into email. Every couple of weeks, people get an email. The idea is they read the email and they go, that's useful for me. And he didn't ask anything. So I also have a no sales approach in my meetings and in my emails.
Do you not have a call to action at the bottom of your email saying?
So this brings out a philosophy towards the side of the strategy, right? So the philosophy that I have, particularly for B2B, where people are constantly cold calling you and hammering you for you must do business with me because I'm amazing. So with B2B, one of my philosophies is give away as much as possible, high value tips, tricks, build a huge amount of authority with your audience in order to gain permission to sell to them. And so sell very infrequently. There's lots and lots of numbers that people will ask. I heard Gary Vee say between 10 and 20 to 1, right? So what that means is between 10 to 20 pieces of high value content going out versus one selling. Mm. And so I look at it as permission selling. So a lot of people in email marketing will talk about permission email, right? Don't spam people, get their permission first. Once you have their permission to email them, honor that.
How do you get someone's permission to email? Do you say, do you want to be on my email list?
Yeah, so the simplest way...
How do you do that?
The simplest way, or the most effective way that I do that, is through doing live workshops, right? So I will put aside a couple of hours of my time. I'll take, let's say I've got 100% worth of my skills of the things that I sell, right? The knowledge I sell, I might take 5% of that, put it into a simple workshop, put that workshop into a Zoom session that I organize 6 weeks in advance. And then when I'm emailing people, I'm saying, like, come to my free workshop. You're going to learn A, B, C, and D around maybe email marketing or around social media or around creating website pages that convert. And so you give these little snippets of people for completely free, and that's really valuable. And it's also low cost investment for them to attend a 45-minute workshop. Right?
And that way you get their emails later.
And then I think that's fair exchange.
A beautiful segue into sort of the next thought that I had about trust and customers and clients. And, we just talked about how relationship is the cornerstone of what you do, of your business, and building that trust. For someone to trust you, to let you go and find them their home or help them sell their home, it is such a big deal. So
it's their biggest asset.
Yeah. How did you, I don't know, like it's going to be a big question here for you. Sorry, but how did you build the trust, or what was your understanding of the trust back in the day, which probably we've just sort of tapped into because we talked about the ambitiousness and going too fast and slowing down and caring for people. What do you understand building trust with your clients now mean?
Look, a huge question.
Yeah, it is.
I think trust starts at a brand level. So, to work for a Bayleys gets you in so far. I don't think it gets you to the finish line. It doesn't get you the agency agreement signed, but it does get you through the door. So I think a huge platform for me and for our people is to be able to, as you said at the top of the show, it's a trusted name. Okay, cool. I'm starting here with someone that I've heard of. These guys have been around for 50 years, so that helps. Mm. I then think people or agents in the real estate sense have got 3 things they can sell. And the trust piece, I think, is a combination of these. And again, like I mentioned before, actually comes down to that individual. Again, a corporate landlord will want a different degree of trust than a mum and dad selling their residential home. Mm. But the 3 levels at the most simple level is time. So we can all offer time. So are you coming to follow up with me? Are you in my living room? Are we, do you always feel rushed? Are you not returning my calls? Because I've got to trust that you're going to give me your time, because I want you to do my open homes and do the follow-ups and be able to negotiate the deal. Everyone's got time. How they use it, that's another story, and we can get into AI and automation and a whole thing around that, but that's different. The second is about the network. So can you sell this property for me? How many people do you know or can you reach through what you do? Because if I'm going to trust you with this, I want to know that I'm going to expose the property to the biggest audience or the most relevant audience possible. So that might go to track record, time in the seat, maybe some recent profile or recent opportunity that they'd seen, an event or a editorial in a paper, whatever that might be. And the third thing is value. Do you understand my property? You can come and tell me you've got all the time in the world. You can come and tell me you've got all the network in the world. But if you don't understand what makes my house different, then I don't want to, I don't want you to represent me out there. If you don't represent the value that I see here, if you don't understand what the special features are, whether it's a certain bench top on a kitchen, whether it's a certain flow, whether it's a certain school zone or a certain trend that's maybe happening in the market. If you don't understand those, then I can't build the trust with you to go and represent my biggest asset to 100 people coming through an open home on the weekend. So we always say those are the 3 factors that build trust. And I don't want to get too far into the property specific, but about 40% of homeowners will make the decision in their living room about who they're going to use based on the trust they've got sitting across the other side of the table for them. It's a huge amount.
Thank you for that. That's quite a very nice 3 points. The client sitting in the living room, having a conversation with the real estate agent, having a conversation with you, they might have done a bit of background research about you. But if they haven't done a background research and they haven't had the chance to work with you just yet to see those 3 points, how are they making decisions to pick? The question is, how are you helping them make the decision to pick you without having given them the time or all the other 2 points?
Probably without even knowing this as a 17-year-old, it's sort of what I did to meet John Bayley. You had to prepare. You've got to have that. So at Bayleys, we've got something called the Bayleys winning way. So we will do so much preparation before you go and sit in front of a customer so that you can articulate those points in that environment. And we might change the pitch based on who we're talking to. We might, sometimes you don't even get the luxury of being in the living room. You might have to submit a written proposal to a lawyer or a trustee in some cases for certain circumstances that arise. So the first thing is to understand your customer the best you can, then prepare for that meeting. And I don't care if this is real estate or what any of your listeners are in. I think the process is the same. Because if I turn up there and say, "Hi, Mina, I've sold 100 houses in Takapuna this month, and I've got the best #1 record at da-da-da-da-da," and you go, "Well, that's great. I'm actually here to talk to you today about selling a property in Remuera." You've completely missed the mark, right? You've burned that trust down before we even had a chance to hear.
Yeah, we were talking about the research and finding out a bit more. Have you got a story, a bit of a putting you on the spot right now, but a story of you being in that position, wanting to prepare and wanting to do really well to come across as someone who's, what you're doing, and perhaps you did it well or you didn't do it so well. If you can think of a story now, great. Maybe you can think of it later down the track during the show. But I would love to. Yeah, you were right about saying these principles do not simply apply to real estate agents. They'll apply, and I was thinking about how it applies to other industries, and I love them. So do you remember
a story
of you doing well and being proud of what you've accomplished to get into that meeting or writing that letter and then actually landing those clients and actually ending up listing up that property for them?
Probably burnt into my memory more is the ones where we haven't won.
Yeah.
It's so, as you asked me the question, I went through, and what I think for me, it's a little bit cliche, but you either win or you learn. That's sort of what we, so not that I don't value the wins and the customers we have, but you probably learn more from the ones you don't.
Of course.
I remember going to a pitch. It was actually an office, a tenant, an occupier, and we went in to pitch for their business to go out to market, and we'll find a new office for them, right? So it's called exclusive brokerage. Anyway, we turned up there, and I reckon we spent about 10 minutes trying to plug in a computer. It had the wrong portal, the wrong whatever you call it, dongle connector. It was kind of really awkward, and we hadn't prepared any printed packs. We were probably running 5 minutes late to get in that room. I reckon by the time the first slide made it up on the board, they'd already made up their mind that we were the ones for them. And it goes back to that preparation, no matter what it is, whether it's real estate or other, it comes back to that preparation, that contingency, that thought through. I can't even tell you if our strategy was any good. I can't even remember if our pitch was any good. But because we were poorly prepared, we were 5 minutes late, we weren't set up with tech, we hadn't reached out in advance to ask if they've got a, I don't know, USB-C or whatever, HDMI, whatever the cable was. We had set the tone for the meeting before we'd started. And that's an example of where, I'll never do that again.
Yeah. It's so simple, isn't it? I appreciate the sharing and the open honesty. I feel like talking about mistakes is not done enough. It's becoming something more popular, even on things like Instagram, where people are starting to share their challenging colours or challenging days as well as the good days, or even in business being open about the mistakes that you've made. Of course, growth can't happen without making mistakes and learning and then getting up to that next level. So do you recall like some sort of mistakes that you've made, and whether it's leading or being the real estate agent, part of Bayleys or other companies around the world, and that really stuck out, that you really can't forget it?
Yeah. Look, I think firstly, the point you make about sharing mistakes is really important. That we live in a digital world where you can cut and edit things out, and it reminds me of the song, everybody's free to wear sunscreen, right? You can dust over nostalgia and make a good story out of it. But I think it's important we do, because in this fast-paced world we live in, this digital world we live in, human interaction is still the most important thing, and being honest with those and making sure that you're not sitting at home watching this perfect world of someone, which we all know is rubbish.
Yeah, but we still believe it.
We still believe it. So I think it is really, and I'm glad you have raised that, because I do think it's a really important thing for mental health, for leadership, for mentoring, for sharing with all of us.
Yeah, definitely.
I think probably the biggest mistakes that sit with me are around people. And
like leading people, or
working with people, and I think, to my point before, not recognizing early enough a style to respond to somebody. So being so busy or so caught up in my own, those things you mentioned before, strategy, vision, and hey, no issues. These are all great, but not taking the time to take care of a key broker, or even worse, assuming that broker was actually on board when they weren't, so missing those signs. And they sit with me a lot, because without people, without our team, we're nothing. We don't sell widgets, we don't sell product. Our people are our first customer. So I think that is probably the thing that sticks with me the most. You can win a deal, you can lose a deal. Hey, they'll come around, but people, livelihoods, their families, I think those are things I always want to learn and get better at.
What is your advice if someone is 28, 30, even 35, wanting to start a business, and what are some of the things that they should be thinking about first before they even start? And this could be like an entrepreneur, an SaaS, or SaaS, or
well, the saying that you're talking about is
or a marketing agency like you've done.
Well, it's begin with the end in mind, is and I've always had that right from the start. I think I learnt that way back when before I even had my business. Begin with the end in mind. I have these sort of one-liners for myself, and you need to do that. It's like and that helps to structure how you want to build that business.
What were you thinking about when you started like this, your advertising agency? Because I believe that you started it and you grew it to around how much?
Well, we got the actual ad agency to about 5 million, but then I bought a publication called Best Buys and from another company, and that was added another 5 million to it. So it was about combined.
So about 10 million. Yeah. So you started that, grew it, and I think it was over 7 years. You were talking about making that work, and you stepped back.
Yeah.
If someone wants to do the same, how do they get on it?
Well, yeah, you need to grow. You can't grow a business. This is obviously when people first start a business, they're the specialists. They know everyone. They've got the contacts, especially in a service, B2B sales business. You need other people to scale a business, especially a services business. And, that was a journey. I was lucky because previous to starting my agency, I had been managing other people as well. So I'd learned some management skills, care of an employed relationship. So when I started my business, it was just me, but then I was quickly knew that I had to get other people to help me to scale because you can't do everything yourself. And what I learned when I was trying to step out of the business and work more on the business and in the business is it's better to hire people for the role before you want them to go into it than straight into a role. Because then you can, let's say you want a general manager running one of your businesses, it's better to hire them as a senior salesperson and observe their behavior in that lower role on a lower pay packet, probably with an incentive if they do the right things to move into general management after a given period of time. Plonking someone straight into a general manager's role, you don't know them, you've interviewed them a few times, you've got some references, put them in charge of one of your businesses, you're kind of like, you're throwing all your money on black, really.
Is that true? Really, so that sort of bit of an experience there for you?
But yeah, multiple times.
So you have,
and if you speak to any other business owner when they're talking about stepping away from the business, there's probably talking about throwing all your money on black. There's probably around a 50% failure rate. Some people have got it down pat because they've probably had experiences where they've learned from that. Again, you could go to a course about stepping away from your business and how to hire a general manager, but the facts of the matter is people are people, and you're the CEO or you're the founder running a business and you're trying to give somebody else your baby to run. There's issues.
It's true.
There's a number of things that have to happen from both sides, and that is a human dynamic, and human beings, emotions, objectives, feelings, all that sort of stuff. It can go terribly wrong if you're not clear about a number of things and your the structure is not right as well. So I learned some lessons. I've had some excellent successes with hiring people. I don't know how many people I've hired over the years. It's probably well into a couple of hundred over different businesses. And yeah, I think I'm better at that than the average, but I am definitely not 100% on it. And my advice to anybody who's trying to delegate is to get somebody into the role before you fully secure them in it and give them all the responsibilities. So let's see what they're like as an operator, see if you can work together, that sort of stuff. You can't test people out in a role. You have to sort of put them in, but you can put them in a role before it. I mean, it's hard to think of the whole 22 years, but sometimes we're real fun. Sometimes we're just scary. And
what's the scariest moment that you've had? Well,
in the first few years, probably the first year, there was, and this is probably good for your listeners, I called them, I gave them a name. There's these days where when you leave a job, I was on good money for a young guy and a company car, and you leave a job and you got no income. And I was doing a publication. It was called Smart Saver. It's like a little coupon booklet. And I had obligations to print that each month and put it into letterboxes all across Auckland. So I'd print bills, and I had to sell a certain number of pages to be break even, and then everything after that was profit for me, right? So there's some months where I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to sell anything here. I'm going to have 5 pages out of 24 sold, and I'm going to like be paying to be here. I started pumped with my last paycheck about after tax, probably about $6,000. So sometimes I didn't even have the money in my account to pay for the bills that I was running up. So I had to make this work. So I had these days, what I call black hole days. Kids these days might call it depression or anxiety. I just call them black hole days, where I'd go back and I'd say to my girlfriend at the time, I was like, oh my God, I'm in deep trouble here. And it would last for 24 hours sometimes, but I just kept going in and kept making calls.
You just make calls. That's how you do it.
And then your luck changes. Somebody says, yep, come in. I had one customer that walked in, spoke to him. He said, love it. And he wrote me a check while I was still literally in his offices.
You wouldn't call that luck, would you?
Well, I still call it creating your own luck. So is it luck? Well, I just kept going. And, you hear these stories about, when you're in the, just don't stop. If your luck's down, don't stop, because you're sort of like stopped there. Just keep moving and your luck will change. So I still call it creating your own luck. And it's by design or because, but yeah, the worst thing you can do is stall in the middle of a loop, So, and then some days, I literally get a phone call and somebody I spoke to 3 months ago, we're ready to book and we want to book 6 pages. And I was like, I would come home and I was thinking, life's great.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So in the early stages, it was very like this. Yeah. As you built the business and you had team and your revenue started being more consistent and you built out your business model, you didn't have those same days, and they didn't affect you so much if your revenue was down. It's like, I'm going to make it up next month and things like that. So, but those early days were very dangerous. Because, I literally would look at back in the day, the paper at the recruitment ads going, I could do that while I was running my own business. It was like, what are you doing? Yeah.
Do you ever feel like, what am I doing? I doubt I need to go and get a job or
that's what I literally was looking at sales managers and general managers of companies ads and looking at salary going, that'd be nice to have a consistent. So when for anybody who's thinking of starting a business, you are going to have times like that. It's not going to be all gravy all the way through. Like this is, and you're going to have self-doubts and you're going to have imposter syndrome. People go, wow, you're really killing it. And deep down, maybe you're not. And how you deal with that and reconcile that in your own head. But you just have to keep going.
That's the whole point. And for people, it's difficult to keep going. I think that's a challenge. How did you keep going? Just do it.
I've just wrote lists. One thing I do, and I've mentioned this recently, and I've still had crises up till recently but in different flavors, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I do is that helps me psychologically is I make a plan. So as soon as I create a plan, you're looking forward, and by looking forward, you can see an outcome, and it makes you feel better. You're still in the middle of the crises, but you've made a plan, and that plan may change. But the mere fact of creating that plan helps you psychologically meander through it. If you're sitting there just going, oh my God, my life is terrible, this is absolutely turned to shit right now, and you haven't got a plan, you're just going to sit there and wallow in that mess, and you're not going to be able to climb your way out of it. So, and that plan may set the plan and then just write a list of sequential things to do and just do one thing. It's like, what's the saying? How do you eat an elephant? One spoonful at a time.
Quick one. Mina here. Thank you for watching this episode. I appreciate you. Thank you for all your support. One thing that you can do for me is to please hit the subscribe button below. I promise you that if you hit subscribe, I'm going to work hard to make sure that my episodes are really good, that will get better and better. So, do we have a deal? Okay, back to the episode. Do you have any sales tips?
I think first and foremost, you just have to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
If you absolutely believe in yourself and believe in the product that you have and how it will help people. So how you can add value to someone else's life through your product or your service, that's all you need. Understand what challenges that they have and how you can fix them. That's what a sale is. And we're so wrapped up in, do you want fries with that? And, I don't want to be a salesperson, like a car salesperson. Yeah. We've got this all in our head. I don't want to sell. Well, actually, you're not selling. You are just offering a service. You are offering value to someone and they are in turn giving you value back in the form of cash.
For people who hate selling and they haven't got that understood, and they hate all of the above and they don't want to do it. What if you were to teach somebody, that could take 5 hours, but if you could teach somebody how you're going to sell, what are the first things that you would think? I mean, in addition to what you just mentioned with adding value, but people just stumble on their words. They just don't know what to say and they go, oh, blah, blah, blah. How do you fix that?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, stop making it about you. Because when you are thinking, I don't want to sell, you're not thinking about the other person. You are only thinking about yourself. So I think get out of your head, get into your heart, and all you have to do is ask questions. Like you just start by asking questions. Oh, so what are the challenges that you're facing at the moment? Well, how does that make you feel? And, how is that impacting on this or that or everything else, So really get them to feel into their pain, because there'll be some kind of pain that's going on inside of them. And then you can just offer what you've got. Oh my gosh, I can solve that problem for you. This is how I can do it. Like it doesn't even have to be a sales thing, and you don't have to close the deal right then and there either. And I think it's also important not to go in needing the sale. When you come in desperate, it totally shows. People know, oh my gosh, this person's just wanting the sale and I'm just going to,
too
distance myself from them. But if you literally just go in your heart, just wanting to help, and you know that your product can help them.
I would love to get into the scaling part. How did you do it? And are you still scaling? Okay, 12 hours of conversation and then we've got the answer. Scaling a business is really tricky because it's all about like fine timing, isn't it? Like a lot of businesses coming, therefore we need to hire, or a lot of businesses about to come, therefore we need to hire. It's the timing. How did you guys do your hiring? How do you time stuff? Or were you like, oh, we just don't know, we just do it?
To start with, very ad hoc and very mishmashed, whatever that word is. That's about exactly how it was. And I mean, to start with, it was very much, we have too much work and we cannot do this and we need to hire somebody. But then we got to a point where we were anticipating growth and then we were having to hire people to anticipate for growth. And sometimes when we did that, we got it completely wrong and we had too many people. And then there were times where we got it completely wrong and we didn't have enough people. So there is definitely a fine line. I think understanding the data is definitely one of them, and understanding productivity levels. And then on top of all of that, you don't want to overwork your team. You want to make sure that they're also growing. So they don't want to be doing the same thing for 5 years. So you've got to be doing, delegating and elevating them into roles that they want to be doing. Then you need to get other people to come in and do this other work. So we haven't always got it right, and we've got it wrong a lot of times.
When you do not get it right, when you do get it wrong, that's what I'm interested in. And not because I delight in your mistakes, but people listening going, oh my gosh, this is the problem that I am in right now. She's been in my problem. How did you do it? And I want to figure out, maybe I can get little pearls of wisdom from you. So when you did have, let's say, lots of people in your team, and there was no work, what did you do? And the same thing, like when you had so much work, very little, and it was really pushing at like you just too much. How did you do it?
Yeah, well, I guess when you've got not enough team members, clients complain. Or even not enough team members, but not the right people in the right seats. And I've had that where, we've got some jobs, clients have come in, we've promised that we've been able to deliver something, and then suddenly the team that you thought was going to be able to deliver can't deliver. I've had that. It was really bad.
So you had it's a ripple effect.
Yeah. One time we lost about $250,000 worth of work because of one person who we'd hired on all sorts of promises that they could do something that they actually could not do. And it always comes back to us as the owners. So one, we didn't hire right. So what did we do wrong? we took basically a recruitment agency's promise that this person could deliver. We didn't really jump in and ask the right questions. We didn't test them to make sure that they could do it. So a whole bunch of promises, but really no proof that they could do what they could do. So we've tightened up our recruitment process. We don't just leave it to a recruitment agency. And then also just now we've got all of our metrics and we can really see clearly. So sometimes you'd hire someone, it'll be after the 90 days, you don't even realize that actually they can't do what they're doing. Now that we've got all of the metrics and we can see, it's very clear early on. So you can have those conversations that you need to have, the training that you need to do.